Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany Hunter. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back, and thank you so much for coming back. So, I know I have been gone for a few months. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. A little bit of a rant around arranged marriages, specifically the show Married at First Sight. So if you've been here for a while, you know that I started my reaction videos in 2020 and I started doing them to the series Married at First Sight. If you've never seen the show, the title is pretty self-explanatory. 10 singles are matched and they meet and marry at the altar, unless they decide not to get married, which is very rare, but it has happened once in the last 17 seasons. After watching it for the past 4 years, I've noticed a pattern with some of the women who are casted, and it's rather troubling, so I just want to talk about it today. I'm starting to notice this pattern of single women who are either approaching 40, have never been married, refer to themselves as very independent, or those who want to start a family within 1 year of getting married. Typically, when these women are casted, they meet and marry their stranger husband, and it either falls apart before decision day, or the couple decides to divorce on decision day, or sometimes shortly thereafter. And honestly, I'm tired of seeing this pattern of couples having this really quick burn that fizzles out just as quickly as it starts. My opinion on this as to why this keeps happening is that pop culture has told women they have to be so independent and so self-sufficient that the reality of doing life with another person can be rather difficult, even though that is their end goal. So think about this. If you are used to walking through life alone, making room to share your day-to-day life with a spouse can be difficult. I'll say that again. If you are used to walking through life alone, you're independent, child-free, you're not in a serious relationship, possibly haven't been in a lot of serious relationships, sharing your day-to-day life with a spouse can be difficult, and it requires a period of adjustment. You don't automatically become a unit that works together seamlessly and you function well. That takes time, that takes practice, it takes getting to know each other. And sometimes on Married at First Sight, I don't know that the women who are very ambitious, who are used to achieving their goals with little to no resistance, if they understand, hey, and if you're used to being great at everything and marriage appears to be a struggle for you, that can be pretty shattering. That can be a very jarring reality to experience. If you really want something, you are going to have to work at it, especially if, like I said before, you are used to accomplishing goals. You are used to, checking things off your to-do list with, minimal to no resistance. Things come to you rather easily. So coming together as one in a marriage, that does not mean that you and your spouse will always agree, nor does it mean that you have to be duplicates. Their thoughts are your thoughts and vice versa. However, it does mean that in a marriage, both spouses have to learn to move as a unit. You learn how to consider each other instead of solely focusing on your needs, your wants, your preferences, deal breakers, and so on. Now, I know pop culture tends to glorify, women who can do it all. The woman who has a well-thriving career, perhaps she owns property, perhaps she owns multiple cars, a lot of tangible items of success. However, having a well-paying job, your own place, a car, and the ability to pay your bills does not mean that you will be a great spouse. And this applies to men and women alike. But for this video, I'm simply dealing with the women because I believe that I am a part of the counterculture when it comes to pushing women out of the house and having them prioritize their, careers or their education, higher education, and just climbing the corporate ladder to the point that if they had any dreams of being married, if they had any dreams of having a family, that goes out the window. And one day they look up and realize, wait a minute, the dreams of me being married, the dreams of me having a family, I don't know if I can achieve those. Time is ticking. Having all of these things, well-paying job, your own place, a car, ability to pay bills, that does not equate to you having the potential to be a great spouse. These descriptors simply mean that you are successful at being an independent adult. You're good at walking through life alone. You can take care of yourself, which is good. Adults do need to be able to take care of themselves. The problem is so many single people spend much of their adult years trying to build and be successful according to the world's standards that it's jarring when they look up and realize they don't have the spouse and the family that they once said they wanted. They've put it on the back burner for so long that years, decades pass by. Now you're in your 30s, now you're in your 40s, 50s even. And if you have not prioritized working on yourself to ensure that you are healthy to be dating with the intent to marry, yeah, it can get rather lonely, and I'm sure it could even feel discouraging to look up and realize, hey, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have been married by now, and it hasn't happened for me because I haven't put myself in a position to be in a relationship that could culminate in a lasting marriage. So when that reality sinks in, there can be this race against time to make marriage happen. Hurry up and get married. When people treat marriage like a checkbox instead of a covenant, there's this mad dash to the altar instead of an intentional dating and courting process. So watching Married at First Sight, some of the edits that some of the women receive, it gives the impression that they are just checking things off of a checklist. Okay, go to school, get a degree, get a house, have a car, be able to take care of myself, all of these things. And then marriage just happens to be on the checklist as well. But the problem is when you approach getting married like it's an item on a checklist that you need to complete by a certain age, you have a very hard deadline for that, selecting your spouse becomes a means to an end. It doesn't matter who you marry, just as long as you can say that you are getting married or are married. And I tend to see this pattern, not necessarily with every woman every season of Married at First Sight, but at least one woman every season. I have even heard previous cast members say, I got married at first sight because I wanted to have someone to do ABC with. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I do understand there is a desire to share certain things with your spouse. That's a valid desire. Very, very valid. However, being married isn't a prerequisite for anyone to enjoy their favorite pastimes or to make core memories. There are friends, family members, and even colleagues who share your interests. What I would say, to those women is don't wait until you get married to start living. You can explore Facebook groups, social clubs, and even small groups at your church if you are invested in the church community. If you simply want company while you're doing your favorite activities or, discovering new hobbies. The problems arise not because people have a desire to share their life with someone, but when they are not flexible in their expectations of a spouse and a marriage altogether. I know this phrase is not aesthetically pleasing, but it's true. Marriage is work. Considering someone else in addition to yourself is a relational skill that takes time and consistent practice to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think what happens with some of the women who have been on Married at First Sight if they came in with the mindset of, I just need to add a husband to the equation and my life will be perfect, my life will be complete. That's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disappointment, sadness, and could ultimately wind up in a divorce. And now the woman is back at square one. Marriage is a covenant. I know that with pop culture, be it reality TV shows, movies, plays, what have you, sometimes marriage does not get the best edit. And let me just say this, marriage does not solve your inner issues. Marriage is a mirror. It simply reflects back to you what you are doing, how you are showing up. Your spouse will reflect to you your behavior. So the things that you like about yourself, the things that you don't like about yourself, the things that you could stand to improve, your marriage is going to reflect that. For example, if you have poor conflict resolution skills, and that includes you cursing at your spouse, cursing at anyone when you're angry, that's going to then, translate over into your marriage. And your spouse could say something like, if this is how you're going to speak to me, this conversation is over, and they leave. And if you're used to someone going toe to toe with you when you are angry and you are using those sentence enhancers, it can be, pretty jarring. It can stop you in your tracks. Like, wait a second. This is how I handle conflict. This is how I fight. This is how I argue. This is how I express my frustration. And if your spouse is saying, that's not going to fly with me, yeah, that can be hard to adjust to, because now, if this is something that you have been doing for a substantial period of time, this is a habit that has now become a part of your character, it's going to take more than just a few days or a few instances to have a complete overhaul, change how you think about conflict, change how you respond, especially when you are under pressure and emotions and tempers are running high. What's funny is originally, I didn't watch Married at First Sight. I was not going to fool with it at all when it first started, however many years ago. I actually got turned on to it during the pandemic. And I'm sure a lot of people have, found some great TV shows or maybe even some not so great quality television shows during the pandemic because we were all in the house. But during the last 4 years, I just have noticed, especially the experts. The experts are the face of the show. So they tend to get the most flack and the most heat when these marriages don't last and there are no lasting matches from season to season, and even after the seasons have ended. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some couples that have gotten married on this show, and they are still married. Some of them have kids, and they are still thriving. So I wouldn't look at it as the show as itself is the problem. The problem is people are entering into a serious covenant as marriage, but their mindset around marriage is anything but serious. And that's why we are seeing people possibly even losing hope in getting married, because we're watching people on TV. They have these wonderful weddings and these, seemingly awesome, honeymoon trips, all expenses paid. And after 8 weeks, before then or shortly thereafter, the marriages crumble because the foundation is lacking. And when you meet and you marry a stranger on the same day, that's challenging, especially if the marriage wasn't arranged by family and friends who know you well, who know exactly who you are and know what is best for you. They know what you like, they know what you dislike, they know what it takes for you to show up as your best self. So, to the expert's defense, they're working with people who might be saying and doing all of the right things to make sure that their spots are secured on the show. And when it's a show centered around marriage, that should not be the approach. Married at First Sight, it definitely has promise to it. It becomes problematic when people are not going into the experiment fully transparent, ready to adjust, being flexible with this spouse that they are meeting and they have to get to know. If marriage is meant to last for a lifetime, it should not be approached with the mindset of, well, if it doesn't work, we'll just get a divorce and blame the experts. Marriages don't fail because of experts or a lack of experts. Marriages fail when the two people within the union decide it's just not worth putting in the effort. But yeah, those are my thoughts. So if you wonder why I hadn't been doing reaction videos to the last 2 seasons, that's why. Because I'm tired of it not working out. I want to see people get married, and I want to see people fight for their marriages. I want to see people have healthy, lasting marriages. Not perfect, but functional, healthy, lasting marriages. So when the goal is no longer seeing if 2 people can make a marriage work, but it's more so on ratings and drama, shenanigans, yeah, I'm out. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that topic. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you watching Married at First Sight? Have you watched it previously? Would you go on the show? Would you recommend a loved one goes? Let me know in the comments. We'll chop it up there. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and of course, hit that notification bell so you do not miss my future posts. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you could have been anywhere, but you chose me, so I'm grateful. I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.